Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us again today on another community sync for PWA Studio. So today, we're obviously a little light on our content today, based because of the Texas ice storms last week. You know, it kind of slowed everything down for everybody that's based here in Austin. But luckily, we have Christopher Brabender on with us today from AbsoluteNet, here to save the day, and he's going to kind of walk through a demo of what he and the team have been working on in terms of extending styling in PWA Studio and for Venia. So that'll be a really exciting demo. We'll talk quickly about community contribution and our community board, led by Stephen Rue, and kind of give some updates there. And then we'll wrap from there, assuming that there are no open questions or kind of talking points from anybody that's on the call. So if that sounds good to everybody, then I will just go ahead and pass things over to Chris, so he can go ahead and demo.
Awesome, thank you. No pressure at all. Let's find the right thing to share. All right, hopefully you're seeing Venia.
We are.
Awesome. Okay, so version 9 of PWA Studio gave us some nice new features that I'm sure some people have had a chance to play with, like targetables and taps and that kind of stuff. So I wanted to see how we could leverage that build bus framework in order to apply some styling easily to a project, right? So currently you have a project you're working on, you want to do styling on a particular component, you have to do one of a myriad of different methods to update that styling, whether you're using normal replacement module or a Webpack alias or just tree replacement just to target a particular style. So say we have our product full detail component, we want to change the styling of the header on that page. We would have to do maybe a full tree replacement of everything leading to that component and then modify the reference to the CSS file and then copy that entire CSS file to our local project and do the updates that we want to do. So that's a little bit complicated and a little bit too much overhead. So what I have been playing around with is using the targetables to actually use to inject into a component some custom classes. So in our local intercept file, we're using the standard targetables functionality, but we're grabbing all of our CSS files from our local source components directory. So we can just use the naming convention that is provided from Venia. So we have product full detail / product full detail.css, for example. We can just add that file to our local, so product full detail.css, and that's automatically going to be loaded in to our product full detail component through our targetables. So we're identifying by naming convention any relevant CSS files that we want to update. We're adding our own CSS via an import to the product full detail component, and then we're using the merge classes function to inject our custom styling in between the default styling and any styling passed in via props. So that allows us to modify the styling of a component without having to actually override everything, using the default styling, and also if there's a particular use case where we want to pass in prop styling, we can do that as well. So we have our product full detail, for example, and say we want to change the color of that. That's going to repaint. And now I have my updated color for that component, and I haven't modified or replaced anything else in that CSS. I'm just changing the styling of that particular element because we're using merge classes, which is awesome. As you'll see here, the size changed. So there is, a problem with merge classes where this is actually going to replace everything in the core styling with what I've defined here. So we can do that, which is good if we want to actually just override everything related to that heading component. But say we actually wanted to just extend it, we can just use the composers and compose from the core, and that's going to update and that's going to fix our sizing, right? So we have the right styling, we have the right the inheritance from that core style of that component as well. And it's a little hard to see there, but if we have a look at maybe we want to style the header, so we look at nav, we have nav header.css, we can do that title there. I don't want to do that. I want to do color red, for example. So that's going to repaint. And the nice thing is we have hot reload because we've already defined these files. So here you'll see the styling doesn't look right. It's too big. It's not positioned properly. So we can do another composes from. That's going to update. So we're inheriting the styling. It's looking right, and we're just changing the color of that component. So that's kind of a simple way of handling styling through some of the native functionality. Hopefully trying to simplify the workflow for devs when it comes to styling a little bit. So I think it works all right. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Identified a couple of issues with targetables and the build bus that I need to talk to the core team about. But yeah, overall, I think it's working all right. Any questions or comments on that?
That is brilliant. Taking advantage of the fact that the CSS file and the JS file are named the same thing to do that is brilliant.
Thanks. I like that the core team has naming conventions for this stuff, which made it a lot easier. Like merge classes is always the same, so I can always target const classes, merge classes, default classes, and that's consistent across the board. There's some instances where like props will change, it'll be like props classes or props.classes, but we don't care about that because we're injecting in between default classes and props classes.
Right. And then you're leaving all of the class names as they're assigned to elements in place,
Exactly.
which is really, really clever, especially because in React it's easy. I mean, the targetables don't care, right? But you're not having to deal with any if clauses, constant clauses that are defined in other places, right? You're just dealing with it at the one statement level. That's really, really good.
Yeah, and we can target like just a product name on this page rather than every single class we have defined in here. But I could change options as well. I can just bring this in, and now I'm going to update that options. What's another example? I could do price block. Something like that. I don't even know where that button is. Product price. So that's probably not going to work. But yeah, that's the concept.
This is great.
Yeah, that is really great. Especially, keeping the classes the same and then using composes is exactly as intended. But like you're saying, missing some important pieces up until this, to be useful enough for people to try and do rather than just to override. So this is kind of a missing link idea here, right? Really takes a system we designed that was underutilized because it had a fatal flaw and really fixes that fatal flaw.
Yeah, there's still a fatal flaw where you can't use. So in the example, I'm using targetables.component, I think, or targetables.module. But if you do targetables.module on a component and targetables.react component on a module, that throws an exception because it's already been loaded into the targetable. So you can't target the same component in two different ways, which is a bug, I think. I think we need to find a way to solve that.
Yeah, I think you should be able to go further in the direction, like you're saying there. You should be able to take something that's already been declared with a parent interface, like module, and then sort of redeclare with a child interface, like React one, I believe is the design intent. But we'll have to get to the bottom of that. And of course, I have it on my plate. I hadn't really had it top priority to have a CSS module uh, targetable as well, right? Like we should have one so that you should be able to target the CSS file directly with targetables as well. But yeah, both of those are adjacent to this, I think. So we should do that.
Any other questions for Chris? All right. Yeah, Chris, I mean, this is great. I mean, and one of the best parts is that, you've really tackled an area that we've consistently heard feedback around, the developer experience for customizing the styling with PWA Studio. And so we have always planned to try to address that. And so like you giving us a head start here is obviously pretty awesome. We do have some backlog items aligned to some of the work that you've done and some of the kind of gaps that obviously it highlights. So it'll be really interesting now as we start to prioritize that, move that forward, to work with you on how we can really pull this into the project and also address some of the other issues you've outlined, right? So as Jimmy pointed out, like something that's been on our mind, right, that we've wanted to solve, and so it's something that we will solve. So we appreciate you giving us a head start here and obviously giving us a look into what you've done.
No problem. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, so that is it for demos, unless anybody on the line has anything they want to demo or talk about. Awesome. And so we just have a quick update from Stephen on where we're at with community contribution and ready for development tickets for the community.
Can you share my screen? Hi, everybody. I posted something in the public Slack channel last week before the winter storm here, and I just wanted to reiterate what I had said. So I'm trying to keep the issues sort of in a good state. I know we have a bad habit of letting things fall through the cracks at times. We have a complex process and a lot of moving parts, so things can just sort of slip away, and we need to be better about it. So I'm trying to make an effort to do that. I just will go over quickly what I've been doing, and then detail some of the issues that we've got open. So what I will do is I go into the issue backlog in the GitHub repo. I look for things that have ready for grooming. Our automation will automatically add this when an issue is opened, and then I synchronize it, I believe, or it might just do it automatically. So if you've got an issue and it hasn't had anyone comment on it, feel free to ping me. But if it has ready for grooming, know that we'll get to it eventually. From there, if I have some feedback that I need from someone, from the contributor, sorry, my cat's bugging me. I will label it with requires follow-up, and this just indicates to us, the internal team, that we're waiting on somebody external to get back to us about this item. So if you haven't seen any movement on your issue that's opened and you see the requires follow-up label, try and scan through it to see if there's a question that we have that we still need answers on before we can proceed with it. This may be accidentally left on there, so please ping me or someone else if it doesn't need this label anymore. And lastly, I'll just get to the open issues that I had groomed. So you'll see, if you filter in the issues tab by ready for dev, you can find all the things that should have information on them that we think is sufficient to get contributions for. These things range in complexity, and I'm still trying to work out how best to identify those, or identify the level of complexity or level of effort for each of these. But anything in ready for development is ready for someone in the community to take on. We would love contributions for any of these things. There's docs issues, there's full feature requests, there's some bugs we've got, and I'll try to keep this, at least like 5 or 6 items open. I know that since I posted it last week, there were like 3 or 4 that have already been contributed, which is amazing. I really appreciate that effort from y'all. So yeah, don't have anything else, but yeah, if you want to pick up something, look for Ready for Dev, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Any questions for Stephen from anyone? All right. Well, I think that about does it for today's Community Sync. So thanks everyone for joining. We'll give you the rest of your time back. Hopefully everyone has a great rest of your day, great evening, and we'll see you again next week.
Bye, everyone.
Very cool.